It's time for ReZero cut content. Not cut content. This is just episode 3. Sorry, season 3, episode 14. My brain's not working. Tragedy of a Sword Saint.
With this episode, the Pristella City arc of ReZero has officially hit the climax, and so did I when Reinhard took his sword out, because that sword alone has more aura than every episode of solo leveling combined. All season, we've been—
Oh shit. Oh my goodness. We starting a fucking nuclear war with the solo leveling fandom? Listen, if they were literate enough to be able to understand the words you're saying, they would get triggered. Now, the dragon sword being drawn was hype. That shit's been foreshadowed for so long. We only see like a what if possibility, you know, with the incident with Puck, which didn't really happen because that was like Echidnut's like powers to show us like the future, but that was really hype when it finally got drawn.
wanting Reinhard to do this, but tragically, the only person who was worthy of it was his own grandmother. Season 3, up until today, had ventured away from the dark emotional storytelling ReZero's known for, and shifted toward a more fight-oriented, action-centric season. But this episode, we witnessed one of the saddest, most painful emotional highlights of the entire series. And yes, this episode made me cry. But not because of Theresia. I cried tears of joy because my queen got 20 seconds of screen time. Pandora showing up at the scene of Theresia's death was
what do you mean Pandora? That's Otto.
Totally unexpected, but definitely a welcome sight. Her appearance made Willhelm's backstory even more tragic now that we know that this whole time he's been blaming himself and his family without knowing that Pandora is really the one responsible for basically all the pain in his life.
That's right, and not just Willhelm. I feel like Pandora is the reason for many people suffering. Now, this girl, this guy, Otto, what's going on? They said that like there was a mention from Willhelm, I remember back in like season 1 or 2 about like how it's not just a great whale, but simply the great whale subjugation. There's no way that my wife would have gone down if it was just a great whale. Turns out Pandora was there, and whenever she's showing up, you can't trust anything that's happening anymore. Like straight up, anytime she's there, you have to question everything that's been shown to you. So like even like what do we see? We just see Pandora taking out Theresia, right? That's just really simple, but like it's fun to think about like, did that actually happen?
Potentially the final boss of ReZero, Pandora is the only character that hides her existence from history, meaning we have basically no information about her. It's possible that this whole time she could have been following us around, orchestrating tragedies and manipulating events, and the reason we haven't seen any of that is simply because she's tampering with everyone's memories. Theoretically, Pandora could be in my room right now. In fact, I might go hump the air just in case she's invisible. On a real note, it's insane.
Age is just a number, guys. Just like the amount of time you're gonna spend in jail. If Pandora gets you off, I don't know. This turns you on? This malnourished, underdeveloped child gets you off like that? I mean, hey, Priscilla, when he's down bad for Priscilla, I'm like, that's right, buddy. We see the well-developed proportions. This is a fucking malnourished orphan in a poncho. I do not understand how you guys get sexually aroused by this design, but hey, everyone's a bit different, huh?
She's invisible. On a real note, it's insane how they could fit such an emotional roller coaster in just a 5-minute episode. Willhelm is one of the best side characters of all time, and I just want him to be happy after this.
The amount of, and I think this is because of the vocal minority, because remember, whenever you read YouTube comments, they do not represent what the majority thinks. The majority are silent. They just simply watch, they're satisfied, and they leave. The amount of insufferable light novel readers in my YouTube video that are Heinkel sympathizers is unfucking real. It's so ridiculous how these light novel retards expect the anime onlys to be like, Heinkel's not at fault! You have no idea what he went through. Oh, you ignorant anime onlys. If only you knew what Heinkel has suffered. Willhelm is the devil. Heinkel did nothing wrong. It's justified. His suffering. You just don't understand. And I'm just sitting here like, no shit. That's the point of an anime only. And I'm sure Heinkel probably has some stuff going on. But like, god damn. The amount of vocal minority that shows up to play devil's advocate for Heinkel, whenever I read those comments, fair, valid. There must be a good excuse for why Heinkel turned like that. But it takes a special type of person to be able to sympathize with a character like that and to see what he's doing out right now. Because I just feel like he's one of the most dislikable characters ever. He is so detestable. He sucks. Everything about him infuriates me. But so does like Arc 3 Subaru, right? So does Arc 3 Subaru in the beginning. And then he hits rock bottom. And we're all shitting on him, rightfully so, because he sucks, but he gets better. So Heinkel's probably going to have a redemption later on. But it's wild. The amount of vitriol that people have for Willhelm. And the amount of support there is for Heinkel. But again, it's just like 7 people from light novel readers. That's just the vocal minority.
The music and voice acting perfectly captured the emotion in these moments, and if anyone else cried, please let me know in the comments. However, the highlight of the episode for me was unexpectedly the white whale scene. It just felt like I was being fisted by nostalgia. I didn't realize how much I missed this big fat.
Yeah, the soundtrack playing was also peak, reminding me just like Season 1 Arc 3. That's probably my favorite arc of ReZero still.
At flying fuck. This scene brought me back in time to sitting in my old room watching ReZero Season 1 on my iPhone 5S. Probably neglecting my homework, just hoping that Subaru would defeat the white whale, which at the time I thought was the Archbishop of Gluttony. I really didn't know anything, didn't know who Echidna was yet, so Rem was still my favorite character. And I had no clue how impactful ReZero would eventually become. I was just enjoying the anime without even realizing how much it meant to me. And for some reason, seeing the white whale again triggered all of that. But anyway, there's a lot to talk about this episode.
Man, that was sentimental.
For the first time ever in the anime timeline, Reinhard has unsheathed his weapon,
Let's
the Dragon
go.
Sword. We did see him use it against Puck, but that was just a trial formed
Doesn't
by
count.
Echidna's imagination, which in my opinion makes it even more canon. But this is officially the first time it's ever happened in the anime, and that's a big deal because the Dragon Sword is more powerful than the Yang Sword that can burn anything its wielder wants, and more powerful than the other 8 swords of power that I can't talk about due to spoilers.
I need the other 8 swords. When are we ever gonna get them? 17 years down the line.
Spoilers. It's the strongest weapon in the entire ReZero universe though. It's enchanted with a divine protection from the sword god himself, and it's said to have drank the blood of thousands of dragons and even slain witches and demon gods. And I wish the author would elaborate on what that means.
Witches and demon gods? Alright. All I know about this sword is that it can basically destroy and create, like, greenery. Whenever the basically what happened after the Puck stuff, right? Wasn't it said that everything got annihilated and then life creation started to happen again? That's actually insane.
Visual effects and the sound design were fucking amazing though. They absolutely nailed the aura and the gravity of the Dragon Sword being drawn and really made it seem like the world itself reacted to it. And
it looked like space was distorting. Everything was shaking. It was perfect.
I cannot stress enough how massively this scene improved upon this chapter of the novel. In the novel, Reinhard didn't even pull the sword out. He just showed up already holding it. So for that, I forgive any and all of the cut content in this episode.
Anime only scenes. They glazed the Dragon Sword unsheathing hype, but I see so many people complaining about how Teresa got ruined in the anime.
Which I will talk about soon. Another detail I liked was how you could see Theresia's life flash before us within the swing of the sword. This was...
I think we got to see like Heinkel and his blonde wife in this too, right? Right over there. Right here. I think that's Heinkel. I don't know. I'm just assuming that this is a blonde girl and we do see like Heinkel with like a blonde girl in the past. And it's crazy how it just took one slash. There was no fight. There was no fight. It was just Willhelm versus Theresia for a bit. And then Reinhard pulled up. Dragon Sword got unleashed. And that was it. But I mean, I guess it goes to show how powerful the best sword is.
How you could see Theresia's life flash before us within the swing of the sword. This was almost a perfect scene. I just thought the soundtrack didn't really fit. It's such a beautiful song, but a bit too heroic and happy for a scene where Reinhard kills his own grandmother while her husband and child beg him to stop. And
nah, that's not the grandmother, bro. Y'all are coping. That is simply... What did Reinhard call it? Like a zombie?
The Dragon Sword is ReZero's equivalent of a nuclear bomb, so this happy, optimistic soundtrack didn't really convey its monstrous and terrifying power. Again, great song, love the song. I just didn't think it made sense in this context.
Fair.
Like, imagine if they played Requiem of Silence during the Priscilla stripping scene.
Hype. Hype. I mean, it's like when Theater D played when we pulled up on the mansion and everyone was dead. Or like when Jujutsu Kaisen, at the climax of the Shibuya incident, when Yuji wakes up and sees the carnage that's been done, he's having a mental breakdown. Then what plays? You Are My Special, right? Sometimes these songs that just seems to not portray the emotions at all. It's great. It honestly makes great content. Now, I don't know if this applies to the Dragon Sword moment, though.
Not gonna lie,
Boing.
that did go kinda hard.
That went really hard.
Or at least I did. Still, Doricia's sword attack here was stated to be the most perfect attack Willhelm had ever seen, but it didn't matter because her opponent was Reinhard. When you pair the most powerful person with the most powerful weapon, you just get complete dominance.
GG.
Despite Doricia being worthy of the sword, as well as the previous owner of the sword, one swing of it was all it took to end the fight before it even started. To put it in perspective how powerful Reinhard and the Dragon Sword truly are, Doricia used to solo armies, and that was standard procedure. Part of the military
Yeah, didn't she literally solo the Demi-Human War? Like, her kill-death ratio is unreal. She single-handedly cleared it.
strategy was just to send Doricia alone to kill the enemy's entire army. Lieutenant Doricia, for today's objective, I want you to go out there and win the war.
Lugunica is so spoiled, man. These Sword Saints, the Dragon Sword, man, they are so entitled.
Single-handedly. And she actually fucking did. Which makes it even more impressive that Willhelm was able to match her, especially considering the fact that he has no divine protections, no magic, no authorities, no mana flow method. He is literally just a guy with a sword. And despite his age, he was even holding his ground against Doricia right up until Heinkel distracted him and caused him to lose. Heinkel ruins literally everything, and he wasn't always an asshole. Heinkel used to be chill up until the day his wife Luana, Reinhardt's mother, fell into a coma. That's why Heinkel started drinking and kidnapping lollies and shit. Anyway,
Again, like, I can understand, like, his downfall, but that doesn't excuse any of his behaviors right now. But like, people, like, it's like in Tora too, bro. When we're watching the Radio Sister Project arc and people are like sympathizing with Accelerator more than Misaka. It's unreal. Like, people have these like delusions and they are willing to write paragraphs, essays justifying and defending and sympathizing with people that you should probably just hate from the bottom of your heart. So again, it truly takes a special type of person to be rooting for Heinkel. It's unreal to me. And I know that I would fucking hate you in real life. Straight up. These like devil's advocates, these people who go out of their way to like defend and justify the like these characters, it's unfucking real. No amount of tragic backstory will ever make me think that Heinkel, you know what? You're an okay guy. No, I don't care if his wife dies. I don't care if a fucking hellhound cucked him and just a bunch of fucking Wolgarms, you know, gangbanged his wife and she went into a coma and now he's crashing out. I don't care. I can understand why he's doing the shit he's doing now. But that's not gonna make me like, oh shit, what a peak character. He's such the pinnacle of writing. It's just like, oh. But then again, hey, I'm an anime only. I haven't seen the source material. Maybe the source material for Heinkel stuff is so compelling. Maybe it's unreal writing. And I think somebody mentioned, maybe Nagatsuki Tapi mentioned it, that like Heinkel, did he say Heinkel is his favorite character? Or did he say that if Subaru wasn't the thing, Heinkel would be the main character of ReZero? I just remember someone mentioning that line. Again, I could be just capping right now, but anyways, we'll be waiting to see exactly what went on. Fucking 10 years down the line. Who knows whenever this is gonna be revealed.
Heinkel used to be chill up until the day his wife Luana, Reinhard's mother, fell into a coma. That's why Heinkel started drinking and kidnapping lollies and shit. Anyway, the point is, Theresia was an absolute monster on the battlefield, single-handedly ending an entire war. And yet, it only took Reinhard one swing of his sword to kill her. That really put the scale of his power in perspective for me, and frankly, I find
technically these zombified versions are not comparable to the actual human versions, right? Like Kurgan versus Garfield, for example. Kurgan isn't at like the pinnacle of power like he was when he was at top of Wallachia, right? So like these are nerfed versions, but still it doesn't take away Reinhardt's power.
Find it terrifying. Plus, the way he kills Theresia without a shred of remorse or hesitation reminded me of Puck's words from Season 2.
You're just a hero.
You're a hero, Reinhardt. And a hero is all you'll ever be.
And kind of sad because Grandpa also kind of like sees him like that too at the end, right? Grandpa is basically like, nope, you're not my grandson anymore. Hey, Mr. Hero, go do your hero things. I'm gonna leave now. It's over.
Let's talk about Theresia's backstory, though. In the novel, Reed Estrella is mentioned as the first-generation Sword Saint, and it's because of his heroic accomplishments that the Estrella family became a family of swordsmen. Except Theresia had no interest in swordsmanship. In fact, she hated it, and she hated her ancestor Reed Estrella for forcing it upon her family. But the actual reason for that wasn't properly explained in the anime. The anime kind of framed it as Theresia felt guilty for overshadowing her brothers despite all their training and hard work. And I'm sure that was part of it, but the main reason she hated the sword was because of her blessing of the death god. Theresia's blessing was honestly more of a curse, because anytime—
Oh, she already had that shit before she even received the sword saint blessing. That's really cruel. Why would it just be, is it just RNG? It kind of is, right? It's all spontaneous, or Old Lagna is just trolling.
Time she cut someone, whether accidentally or on purpose, their wound would never stop bleeding, and that's why Theresia hated swordsmanship. Aside from that, the biggest piece of cut content was when Theresia gained her second blessing, the blessing of the Sword Saint. In that moment, we were actually supposed to hear the Sword God laughing at her. His voice continued to mock her for most of her life.
This Sword God isn't Reed, right? Sword Goddess seems to be just like this divine entity that we just don't even know. It's just like enigmatic, no face, kind of like Old Lagna. We don't know. It's just like a being that existed before that still exists in this like ethereal, corporeal state that is mocking Theresia as she receives the blessing.
His voice continued to mock her for most of her life, actually. And honestly, I didn't even know there were gods in ReZero. So because Theresia—
Yeah, I don't know there's gods either. I think there's demon gods too, right? That's what they said about the fucking dragon sword, but I got no clue. Sword God exists. It's mocking Theresia as if it's just like living. It sounds like a ghost that's haunting her.
Theresia refused to pick up a sword. Her uncle and all her brothers died in the war fighting in her place. It wasn't until Willhelm went off to battle that Theresia finally picked up the sword again to rescue him from being killed by demi-humans. Theresia actually falling in love with Willhelm was another part of her backstory that was cut.
Hold up, go back.
Or fighting in her place. It was a sword. Her uncle and all her brothers died in the war fighting in her.
So she said, listen, I'm not gonna go fight. All her family dies. Oops, my bad. Willhelm goes in. All right, I'll pull up and save him. It just sounds kind of funny how she said, my uncle, my brothers, fuck them. They can die. I'm not going to save them. Willhelm, I'll hold up. Let me pull up.
Her place. It wasn't until Willhelm went off to battle that Theresia finally picked up the sword again to rescue him from being killed by demi-humans. Theresia actually falling in love with Willhelm was another part of her backstory that was cut from the—
One thing that I would have loved to see was some prominent demi-human like names. Because it's unreal to me how they're so strong and they're just taking out, you know, Astrias like that. It would have been cool to have like notable figures in the demi-human army, you know, strong warriors to kind of like pay some respects to them.
Anime, so basically this meeting between her and Willhelm became a daily occurrence every morning, and she thought Willhelm reminded her of a sword in the way that he's so rough and unchanging. But eventually he does change when he falls in love with her and softens up a bit, finally admitting that he doesn't hate flowers anymore. By the way, interesting detail, but this location where Willhelm and Theresia first met is coincidentally the exact same spot where Felt runs into Reinhardt 50 years later in
What are the odds, man? Wow.
Season 1, Episode 3. I don't know what that means, but, you know, it kind of sounds...
Chill the fuck out. Actually, I don't even know what the age gap is between the two. Isn't felt like 14 or 15? Or isn't Reinhard also a teenager? Anyway, this is like the, you know, the parallels between Teresa and Willhelm. Wow.
Sounds like they might fuck. I guess we'll find out in a future season. And hopefully that's a distant future season, because I don't think Reinhardt's immune to diss tracks. So Reinhardt being blamed for Theresia's death, as well as basically all the drama in the Estrella family,
is bullshit. Fuck Willhelm for that, though. Straight up. Fuck Heinkel for being such a sad, pathetic, drunk loser that ruins everything. But also, fuck Grandpa for not being able to understand what actually happened. Are we really gonna sit here and act like Theresia was Theresia there? Come on. What Reinhardt said was very cold but correct. That is not grandmother. We know that somebody, you know, the Sphinx, that witch thing, right? Used necromancy to resurrect Theresia and Kurgan and many others. These are not the same people anymore. And to hold Reinhardt accountable for killing grandma or mom, like, what the hell is that? Honestly, to me, it sounds like Willhelm wanted to die with her. Isn't that what he was also saying before this episode even happened? Like, what was gonna happen? If Heinkel and Willhelm, if Reinhardt didn't show up, what's Wilhelm's plan, bro? Fight against Theresia until Willhelm is the one that kills Theresia? And if so, is it simply that Willhelm himself wanted a closure? That he wanted to kill Theresia, and maybe in doing so, he can also go out together? Because, like, blaming Reinhardt for this is unreal bullshit scapegoat. It's fucked up.
basically all the drama in the Estrella family was in reality caused by Pandora. Yes, Heinkel is an asshole, but
yeah, Heinkel is a simple tool, bro. He's just getting baited. Like, Pandora is the one that's orchestrating everything behind the scenes.
Pandora is the one responsible for Theresia's death, and unfortunately, we are the only ones who know that. A guest appearance by Pandora and Reinhard unsheathing the dragon sword in the same episode almost sounds too good to be true, so let's just take a moment to appreciate how blessed we are. This episode was a 10 out of 10, best episode of the season so far.
Is it? Unless a kid that's memeing, this episode is not the best episode of the season. To him, I think there's emotional ties to the story that he loves so much, right? Therefore, he has an inherent bias towards it. If we're talking let's take away the story first of all. Purely production value, this doesn't even come close to top 3. I think there's so much better episodes in terms of just production value. Now let's end in the story. The story, personally, I don't care as much as Echidnut about the whole Austria, like Willhelm and Theresia stuff. Seeing Pandora and the Dragon Sword being released was pretty cool, but I think that there's some really way better episodes, like when Capella first showed up. That was a cracked episode. Subaru's speech, I think, also went really hard. The Regulus versus Reinhardt, I think, is way better in this episode. And even Garfield versus Kurgan, even if the story wasn't there, the production value is way better. But everyone has their own preferences,
etc. Also, these videos are just my first impressions, by the way, and my opinions do change frequently, so honestly, the soundtrack from the Dragon Sword scene is already growing on me. As you can probably tell, I've been using it constantly throughout this video. I think maybe I went too heavy with the criticism earlier, but
that's fair. I think that everybody should have more like bold opinions and stand on business, and if they're out of touch, maybe they can do some self-reflection and, you know, revisit and give a different take. I think that I didn't even think about the fact that was the soundtrack the correct choice or not. I was just too absorbed by, you know, the Dragon Sword being drawn that I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Everything else was just kind of blocked out in my eyes or my ears.
I'm leaving that in the video simply because that was my genuine first impression. After watching the scene over and over though, I've actually started to like the song choice. I think initially I was just expecting something more along the lines of Ludwig's theme from Bloodborne or something.
Hype. Soulsborne soundtrack, baby. It
One
is
last
super
fun fact
hyped like
before I
this.
go. When the author first dropped this chapter, he was surprised at everyone's approval of Reinhard killing Theresia, because apparently he intended for us to hate Reinhard after this episode.
Really? I just don't understand. I don't get it. Like, the only way that I would have actually hated Reinhard for doing this is if somehow Theresia was actually back. Not a zombie Theresia that doesn't even seem to have a conscience of her own, but the Theresia that we know has somehow been resurrected and she's regained consciousness and is back to her old self. And there's potential for Willhelm and Theresia to be happily ever after. If that was set up and then Reinhard pulled up and killed, then I'd be like, okay, fuck this guy. What the hell? But to me, from the beginning, it's like, there's only one outcome. This is not actually her. And you guys are clinging on to this false image of Theresia, which doesn't even exist in this husk of a vessel. So Reinhard killing just made sense to me, but it's just, whatever. I don't know. Not everyone is me, but that's just my opinion.
Anyway, that's all I got. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you.
My thoughts is Willhelm is a terrible fucking grandfather, dude. The drama with Willhelm ain't over, bro. It's just starting. What he did to Reinhard at the end, so fucking immature, so unreal. And the worst part is they seemingly were about to mend things, right? Like in episode 1 of season 3, if you guys remember, they were like, we were like making omelets together. And, Willhelm was like, Reinhard, you want to help me? This is pretty hard. And I'm like, is there something happening? And then Heinkel pulled up drunk, right? And I thought that maybe this battle would end with Willhelm dying with Theresia. And just before they're dying, maybe Wilhelm's like last moments was having closure with Reinhard to mend that grandfather-grandson relationship and, for him to go happily ever after with his wife. That didn't happen. In fact, we're saltier than ever. And all the blame is put on Reinhard. It's so unfair. Heinkel, fuck him. I mean, he's already such a drunk loser that I never had any expectations for him. So whatever he feels, it's just whatever. It's the standard. I didn't expect anything from him. But from Willhelm, though, I expected more. And for this to happen, it's so unfortunate. Now, this opens up an interesting opportunity, right? Just because of the things that happened at the post-credit scenes last episode doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship between grandfather and grandson is just closed off forever, right? And I'm sure there's some light novel readers that's cackling right now as maybe it is over. But like, hey, you never know, man. Maybe this is cooking. Maybe this is cooking to be one of the greatest redemption arcs for like grandson-grandfather relationships. Or Willhelm is just gonna glaze Subaru because he's the better grandson. Please go check out Echidnut's video. Give the video a like if you did. Here's the link, and I'll see you next time.